Hi, welcome back to another edition of Inside Great Lakes Sailing. My name is Greg Norman, your host. Well, as you can see here in the background, we are at boat night here in Port Huron for the 100th running of the Bayview's Port Huron to Mackinac race, sponsored by National Fleet Services. This show is going to be an interesting show. We're going to kind of give you a travelogue of all the things that we're going to do. We just had a chance to spend some time with Valkyrie, 53 Oyster. Jake was nice enough to invite us along for the ride. We're going to have some fun with that tomorrow. We're going to walk through the whole weekend, and hopefully getting conversations with folks. I think our goal, pardon the expression there, I'm drinking a beverage. I shouldn't be burping in front of folks, but that's the way that goes. First thing I want to do to get out of the way is that Trey Sheehan is here, and if you look up, we've been spelling hooligan with 2 L's instead of 2 O's. So first of all, Trey, thank you for understanding. We will make sure we spell hooligan the rest of the way it was supposed to be and kind of get that whole taken care of. I think that'll help us a ton. Second part is we're just going to kind of use this as a travelogue. Hopefully we'll have some interviews with some of the ardent folks who are here and enjoy the opportunities, but the race starts tomorrow morning. We're going to do a little bit of boat night here in Port Huron, and you'll see that coming up. So stay tuned. We'll be back in a minute. Keith, we're talking to Keith Stauber, who is one of the coolest guys you'll ever want to meet. Keith, just tell us real quick about Papa Gaucho. How'd you get the name?
Papa Gaucho was inherited with the boat, and we're not sure what it really means, but our best guess is potato farmer.
All right. Well, best of luck in the... We're talking with Elliot Allspaw, who is an 85-year-old sail racer, kind of. You're part of the Papa Gaucho family from Duluth, Minnesota, and you were part of the delivery that came over from Duluth all the way to Port Huron.
Yes.
So my question to you is, there's nothing worse than delivering a boat.
But I love it.
Why?
Well, partly it's family. I love to cook, so I'm the galley wench. So I plan the food, and it's just, I get to be with family, and I get to be on the water. I don't sail.
Okay, so when you're sleeping on a boat that probably doesn't exactly have creature comforts, or do you stay?
I get the quarter berth.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's mine.
There's nothing better than spending time with your family. Is that kind of the deal?
Yes.
What's the distance from Duluth to Port Huron? It's got to be 400 miles?
Close to 5.
So you delivered about 500 miles. You should get a pat on the back because this is the 100th race here, and obviously we're in Port Huron the night before on race night. It's kind of cool. Have you been to Port Huron before?
Never. Oh, I shouldn't say that. Not on the boat. We were delivery crew, and we met the crew, picked them up. So we usually do that. We're part of the shore crew that delivers people back and forth. So I think it was 2 years ago we were in Port Huron. Was it? 3 years ago.
I just think it's fantastic that you do all the deliveries and for doing all the food and all the rest of it. It's just a little part of the story, but it was really fun meeting you, and I appreciate talking to you.
Thank you.
We're talking with and chatting with Joe Leonard here at the Black River in the boat night in Port Huron. Joe, you're an amazing artist, and we're going to get to look at some of these unbelievable canvases. You're kind of an artist in rendering, so to speak, here.
Yeah.
Applying your trade right here on the river. So just what do you, Is this a hobby? Is it a full-time job?
Hobby. I retired in 2020, but I've been painting for about 10 years before that as a release of energy and find my sanity time. And picked it up later in life after I'd sold my financial businesses. And all of a sudden it was like, holy crap, you can paint. And self-taught. And I've always had the ability to just take it from my mind or from a picture and put it down on a piece of paper or canvas.
Can I assume that this has gone from a hobby to a vocation or a vocation?
It has, because now I'm traveling to different countries doing wedding paintings, a lot of live wedding paintings. Like I'm doing live tonight, painting out with people around, and then either donate it to charity, or this one I'm hoping later on tonight the yacht club may want it into auction it off to one of the race teams or something.
You were in the financial business.
Yes.
You're now a painter.
Yes.
If you would have known at 20, would you have been a painter earlier in life?
I think I would have, because I have no stress in my life.
What gives you more joy? This, I'm assuming?
Oh, this, and just having my little place where I have, and my dog, and I can paint when I want to paint. If I don't want to paint, I don't paint. I love to come to events like this because I'm a people person, but I love to get the enjoyment of people's faces. That's right. People's faces when they actually get to see the finished product.
Why boats and why sailboats and those kinds of things? Freighters?
Had a boat in the past.
Okay.
A power boat, and loved
So you're a nautical guy?
Nautical guy, love the water, and boats are a passion for a lot of people. So when you can take something that they either have a passion about, whether they can afford one or not, that everybody loves the boat. It's like a jet.
Right.
Everybody loves a jet. They might not have one, but they like to look at them. Same thing with boats. And you have such a variety of sailboats and power boats.
No lack of landscape living in Port Huron with water and all that comes with it. So that's obviously
correct.
Pretty
I lived
obvious.
in South Carolina for a lot of years as home base, and on the ocean side, and now back in Michigan with the fresh water. No salt. I love it.
So let's talk just in again, if painting like this, if you were going to commission or buy something like this, where are your price points at?
Anywhere from $500 to $3,000.
Okay.
Depending upon the detail. This one, of course, has a tremendous amount of detail, and I probably have 70 plus hours in it already. So I tell people, I say, your plumber makes $80 an hour. If I get $20 an hour, I'm pretty happy with that.
So when you're thinking about the cost of it, you don't just arbitrarily come up with a number.
No.
You actually figure out what you're worth times the amount of hours.
I figure out the hours and say, and I know the amount of time I put into it, and I say, if I can't get $20 an hour of my time with it, you know what? It'll stay in my own gallery.
No, I was a career journalist, and as a writer, I still do lots of writing. I do, corporate writing, and same thing. I don't give a flat rate anymore. I give an hourly rate.
Right.
Because I want to make sure it's correct. If I put some extra time in it, you do what you do.
Sure.
I guess I never figured an artist would do that, but that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to have, for instance, the painting down there, it's got 200 hours in it. So, geez, somebody comes by and says, I'll give you $200 for it. No.
As you've been self-taught, is part of that self-teaching also learning techniques and learning things you might not have otherwise known?
Yeah, YouTube.
Amazing, isn't it?
It is. I learned to blend my facial features and stuff, not with a brush, but using my fingertips, because my fingerprint will hold enough oil and paint in it to blend perfectly to get more of a realistic look, to do realism.
Okay.
Same thing with my water. A lot of that, my fingertips are always paint, because I'm rubbing paint with my fingertips because it blends better.
I think of the guy that's on PBS.
Bob Ross.
There you go. He made a career out of being cool.
Yeah.
Without even knowing it.
Right.
So maybe you're the next Bob Ross.
Maybe I'm the next Bob Ross. Who knows?
All right. Well, if you look at below this, you're going to see all the information to talk to Mr. Leonard if you have an interest, and I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, thank you.
back with Chris Duhon, who has had the best Mackinac Bayview to Mackinac race that anybody's seen in a while, and we watched it in a variety of ways. If you weren't watching on Yellow Brick, if you're on the island, had a chance to watch the last 5 miles. Chris, you guys dueled in the 100th race for the Bayview Yacht Club's Port Huron to Mackinac race. It was something to watch, and it's pretty spectacular. It had to be more fun being on that boat than you've been on in a while.
I mean, a lot of the races are tough and challenging, and there is a lot of enjoyment. But of course, it's a little sweeter when you win. Wizard gave us, all the boats gave us one heck of a run at different times, but Wizard gave us a run there at the end that was pretty epic. I mean, both our team and their team did a pretty fantastic job trying to claw to get first over the line.
As you can see by the pictures, I don't think those guys. I think it was probably 30 yards, 40 yards, maybe when you guys finished the trip.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was closer on the boat, but the race committee had the line sight perfectly, and and that's the thing. They said it was 9 seconds, which I definitely will agree with. I mean, we were within. My guess is we were within a boat length when we crossed over. Before we got underneath the island, WinQuest had made up a ton of time on us. They just really had our Wizard and WinQuest both have made up a ton of time on us. What people don't realize is these aren't one design boats. They're box rolls. And, Wizard is, when it gets kind of, doesn't need the riding moment, the hull sides and it gets to reach like a distance race. It's a really fast boat. And the guys sailed it really, really well. And then WinQuest had a masthead jib up with a jib stick that was in their rating. That's why they owed us a little bit of time. And they were, running really fast at a little lower angle. So, the top of the lake, it always gets interesting, and what setup you have is a big deal. But we had made one heck of a start and run up the lake to stay in breeze. And, it just goes to show you can never be complacent. You always have to push, and at the end, they were both catching us. And, we got into a kind of a you shall not pass kind of situation with Wizard. They tried to go over us, and we fought pretty hard all the way up to the island.
Bart Harthwaite is on this show, and they won the pickle boat. And it was interesting to note there was about 37 hours, 38 hours between you and they finishing first and last. I mean, technology, and it was weather, and I understand all those things, but it's like running a 100-yard dash, and you finishing in 12 seconds and me finishing tomorrow. It gives you the understanding and the parameters of just how difficult this race can be, because this was from Chicago to Mac was like you said, some of the best racing you've ever done, 20 miles an hour going downwind, to this, where if you look at the yellow brick track up behind the island there, you guys were tacking on a pretty regular basis for quite a while.
Yeah, we were jibing against each other, and then the wind shifted a little bit. We got, underneath the island when it got a little softer wind, we got a little bit off cycle because we were on a lift, but Wizard was faster. And so they jibed away from us. We let them go. We didn't go with them to cover. And, they were on the unfavored board, and they just went faster. And so they came out in front, and they actually were pressing a couple boat links out in front. And then we made the call to go inside the green can and real close to the lighthouse over there, which is real shallow, and caught up to them and cut the corner a lot. Which is kind of a risky move, but at the same time, we figured it was the way to get them across the line. And I had multiple reports from people on the island that said we looked like we're about to hit each other. Both of us were pretty aggressively trying to finish as fast as we could.
If you're tired at that point, the adrenaline's got to be flowing like crazy with a race that close, especially that last 3-4 hours. Just got to keep you pumped.
It's distance racing. You need to rest. Unfortunately, when it's under 24 hours, the guys rarely rest. I mean, they get little bits here and there when they can, but yeah, I mean, these are these are pretty brutal runs for all the boats and all the guys and all the teams. So I mean, it's not as easy as people think sometimes, and we definitely don't sleep. On both sides, I don't think we really set up our watch schedules fully. I mean, we kind of saw that, if it got lighter, we would go into a watch schedule and off watch, but it never really did. So we were right there by the time it did get a little light, and then we needed all hands on deck to maneuver the boat. So
All right. Well, there are two more events coming up. There's the Little Traverse race coming up, I think August 18th and 19th. And then
Yep.
obviously the championship in Mekatawa in mid-September. So it sets you up really good for a real solid run at the championship.
Yeah, I mean, we've had some pretty poor performances onshore for this year for some reason, but we've offset it, of course, with a third in Queens Cup, a second in Chicago Mac, and a first overall in Bayview. So I think we are pretty much lined up to do some good stuff. We'll have a throwout somewhere in there. Hopefully, we can perform a little better in the next two. In Regatta, we didn't do the greatest. I was in my knee had a little issues coming out of both Macs, so my driving hurt the team pretty bad. So hopefully this next one I'll be able to rest and get going again.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you taking the time out early in the morning I just went on a chat because it was such an epic, race to watch. And again, as you look through this interview, there's pictures of the race and it was just fun. I just thought it would be, again, just even touching base, we had a chance to talk last week, but it's making the season really exciting.
Well, I appreciate that, Greg. And we try to get out there and talk to different people with different media outlets. And hopefully, the viewers like this stuff and like watching us. One of the things I want to point out is that, like David Tank and Ryan Foley really gave a lot for the Bayview race. We're trying to go to numbers that are real light, and those guys raised their hand and stepped off, early on this race, and they both were on the Mac run where we were, I think 80 seconds uncorrected from being first. So, when you look at it, this team I've got it's pretty humbling to be on it. And I know that all the other 52 owners feel similar.
Yeah.
It's somewhat of a, you make a good decision and get out front, but also, none of the teams are put away. And I hopefully everybody's seeing that in the Elber trackers and things like that.
Well, and we said this more than once. The owners in his crew, Eric Weinstein had a sort of an after race party and again, I'll show some pictures of that. That was epic. Everybody had a chance to get together and
Yep.
it's just really fun to watch and to cover this fleet because the guys are such good gentlemen and it's competitive. And when you have that kind of a race, it just makes it fun to watch. So
I don't know if I'd let the statement that we're all gentlemen out there. I don't know if we want that rumor to spread.
right. Well,
So,
you get my point.
but at the same time, no, I appreciate it. I do think we're pretty humbled to have the owners we've got in the fleet, but we're also humbled to have the sailing ability in our crews that are pushing us, into levels that we've never seen before,
Right.
in these boats off of the Super Series. So I do think we have, the ability right now to build one heck of a fleet that hopefully we can follow the way in the trajectory of the GL70s, that continue to grow and had great owners in that fleet for many, many years.
Yeah.
That's the goal, is to try to, equal them of what they pulled in the past. So
We hope to get up to Harbor in a couple of weeks to see you. And if we do, we'll say hello and the best of luck for the championship. And I'm sure we'll be talking before the season's out.
thanks, Greg. Appreciate it.
Welcome back. We're talking with the ambassador of the Great Lakes Sail Racing, Tim Profit, former Commodore at the Bayview Yacht Club. In Class J, you won the Port Huron to Mackinac Bayview Yacht Club's race, sponsored by National Fleet Services. I want to make sure I get that sponsor in. And Tim, let's talk about the race, because obviously this is the 100th race. Weather conditions weren't the best, but you guys toughed it out and kind of came from behind the fleet and won your division.
Well, yeah, it was. Let me preface this by saying we had just completed the Chicago Mackinac race where we won our class, and then the Super Mac, which is a continuation of the Chicago Mackinac race. And what they do to establish classes for the Super Mac is they take those boats that registered, which is a much smaller subset of the total Chicago Mac fleet, and group them in logical class groups. And then even though they may not have started at the exact same time in Chicago, they score them as a separate class, which is really the only way you can do that. And so we won that as well. And as part of that race, we spent, 6.5, 7.5 hours, northeast of Hammond Bay, an approaching presqu'île in very light air. And, because the Chicago race was so fast, we said, well, we're not going to even entertain the idea of dropping out of the Supermac because we got such a head start on it because of the Supermac being fast. And in retrospect, all those hours we spent in the Supermac in the light air really kind of honed or refreshed our light air sailing skills, which came in super, super helpful in the 100th. I felt we had a slight advantage there just because we were really dialed into, light air long distance sailing. The Bayview Mac, we had, as is often the case, somewhat exciting start. We got pushed over the line early, and part of it was our bow guy. He thought we were fine, so he made the go 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 motion, and we went, and we were called over early. So when that happens, the race committee notifies you that you're over early. You have to turn around, entirely cross the line with your boat, and then restart. So when we restarted, we had 21 boats in our class. We're looking at 20 transoms. We're going, no, this isn't good. And our weather routing and, all the weather models, people that I consider to be very smart sailors, were all heading, little slightly east of north out into the lake on starboard jibe, and which we had planned on doing as well. And, looking at 20 transoms and like having to pick our way through the fleet in dirty air. And I said, screw this, let's jibe and go to shore. So we did. So we're sailing on a less favorable angle on port tack under a spinnaker towards the shore, where I described it as divine intervention because we're just not that smart. And we got a little more pressure and then a slow, persistent knock on a port. And now 2-3 hours later, we dropped in front of the whole class. So that was a huge advantage. That did not mean the rest of the race was easy. It wasn't. The fleet did what I call kind of a rubber band effect. We get into a hole, and the back boats would compress a little bit. The front boat was an escape. We hit another hole. The back of the fleet would compress a little bit. So it was very nerve-wracking, and it was light air sailing requires a lot of intensity and focus, and the people I sail with my crew are just wonderful. Nobody stopped, nobody quit, nobody got bored, or somebody said, all right, I'm getting squirrely, take me off, and somebody else would step up to replace them. We have a very deep bench on the boat, and everybody can do everything. So we always had the freshest, bestest people on the job.
I guess would be concentration. Big wind, light wind. What, in your mind, what takes more skill?
They're different skill sets. I don't know if I would quantify them as more or less, but light air, with breeze on, the boat's moving. I'm talking about good breeze, not storm breezes, or squall breezes. But in good breeze, the boat's moving, and you're still tweaking it and trying to get that extra 10th or 100th or a couple hundredths of a knot out of the boat speed. In the light air, if say your optimum speed is 2 knots, a 10th of a knot of boat speed is a much higher percentage of performance improvement than it is when you're sailing at 7 or 8 knots. So I would say certainly the concentration and the focus that's required is probably a bit greater in the light air.
You've had some real serious success the last couple of years. Is this the most success you've had in your sailing career? And if that's true, does it come at an age where you maybe appreciate it more than you might have when you were younger?
Yeah, we actually did something really cool this year. It's the 31st anniversary of our first back-to-back Mackinac race wins. And a back-to-back means that you won your class in Chicago and Bayview in Chicago 4 times in a row. That doesn't mean overall 4 times in a row, but class wins. And we did that once in 1992 and 1993. And at the time, Robbie Roadstrom, he's no longer with us, unfortunately, but he was alive. And Robbie at the time was the only guy alive who had sailed in the original first Bayview Port Huron and Mackinac race. And he was also a club historian. So he informed me at the time that, congratulated me and said, hey, no one's ever done that before. So, trust but verify, right? So I went and looked at all the race records and verify that he was right. And so I've kind of tracked that as a metric just to see if anybody else would ever do it. And we came close once. We got 3 firsts and a second. Frank Kern on Corinthia did it once. He had 3 firsts and a second. Natalie J did it once with 3 firsts and a second, but nobody got those 4 firsts. We did it again this year. And I'd like to point out that with all the different crews, 31 years apart, that Art Labasher was the only human besides me who was on all 8 of those races. So, but yes, I certainly appreciate it a lot more. I mean, when you're young, you think, I'll get another crack at this next year. And in my brain, I'm still young, but I realize that, I've got 8 more to do to get to 50, and, I hope I can hang on and do that. So, but yeah, we appreciate it. Our approach to sailboat racing has certainly changed. My crew is mostly all gotten older. I don't know what the average age is, but it's not 30. They appreciate it. I mean, we had a very, we had like a crew debrief, celebration, whatever afterwards. And the main topic of conversation is how special this group has become and how much we enjoy sailing with each other. True story. So we're, 50 miles to go in the Supermac, which is a 495-mile race. We were having so much fun. We were like, we don't want to stop. Let's call up Buffalo Yacht Club and see if they'll set up a finish line for us, and we'll just keep going. I mean, it was so super enjoyable. I got to say, it was one of winning is always great to do and fun to do and enjoyable, and it's the best possible outcome you can have. But the sailing conditions, the people you sail with, the the whole vibe on the boat, the esprit de corps, whatever you want to call it, was just, I mean, it's always good, but it was just super, super special this year, and we're all appreciative of that.
Tim, as a former Commodore at Bayview, you spend a whole lot of time working towards a 100th race. You're doing more things for 100th than you certainly would do as a normal race. And is it possible that it came off better than what even you guys expected as organizers? And I say that because Friday night was packed with all kinds of opportunity, and it was such a cool time in Port Huron. The race seemed to be, again, the weather was what it was, but the party on the island seemed to be as good as it has been in a long time. Maybe that's because of the weather. I don't know. But did you guys take sort of pride as a yacht club in how good it came off to those looking from the outside in?
Absolutely. I mean, Charlie Trost was this year's race chairman. Charlie did a phenomenal job. We got a record number of entries. Unfortunately, due to boat breakage in the Chicago Mackinac race, we lost a few boats that had intended to race. Putting all the boats on one course was, not everybody loved it, particularly some of the faster boats, because it made it for a short race for them. So in retrospect, the slow race maybe wasn't bad because we didn't have boats finishing Sunday afternoon, which was a possibility if the breeze had been different. I'm not sure what time. Do you happen to recall what time the pickleboat finished? Was it late Monday night or early Tuesday morning?
Early Tuesday morning, about 3:35, give or take.
Okay, so even those guys, the pickleboat had time to put the boat away, take a shower, get a nap, wake up, and go to the awards party. So, it wasn't a truly historically slow race by any measure, and obviously that was aided by the fact that it was a shorter course. But my Commodore year, it rained for the Mackinac party, and I remember getting on the mic, and and that was the first year we hired a professional sound system, and I think you could hear me downtown. And I was telling them, hey, you guys race in the rain, you can party in the rain, and that turned out to be a great party. And I think, for people who sail, we all got wet weather gear. It rains, we put it on. No big deal. All right. Because it was the 100th, and because it was special stuff, and because the Endless Summer Band, who, by the way, they performed their 25th show for the Mackinac race party, and next year they're going to be the first old goat band in Bayview Mackinac history, which I think is pretty cool. But they did a phenomenal job. They kind of revised their set list a little bit to reflect more, Detroit originating, pop music, and it worked out really well. As always, the crowd loved them. and with the stage set up, they can play rain, sleet, snow, or hail. So yeah, I think the party was big. I haven't seen the numbers yet. I don't have an official head count of how many people were there. I'll get that eventually. But they substantially increased the footprint of the party size, and the crowd seemed pretty dense. I've seen some photos of the crowd taken, by Martin from behind the band, and it looked pretty jam packed. It was a great party. So I think it was a huge success. And I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm next year's Bayview Mackinac race chairman. So, the inclination is to say, well, we're going to have a letdown of participants because a lot of people did the 100 because it's special. And there may be an element of truth in that, but also I'm hoping that we have greater retention than we might expect because people did have such a good time on the race and on the island. And then further to that point, next year is Chicago Yacht Club's 150th birthday, and they're doing a promotion mostly to let the East Coast ORC boats because apparently it's not a Newport Bermuda year next year. And they're encouraging them to come to the Great Lakes, sail the Bayview Mackinac race, the East to West Super Mac, which is Cove Course, Port Huron to Cove Island, sail past Mackinac, sail in Chicago, and that's close to 600 miles. Do that, the Chicago Mac, and then do either the Trans-Superior race, if you want to do more distance racing and see a new lake, or do the Harbor Springs Regatta. And then Chicago Yacht Club is hosting the ORC North American Championships in late August. And so with Chicago promoting that, us promoting heavily to this year's participants, I'm hoping that our numbers drop off isn't as precipitous as some might worry about.
Do you think that the sport in the Great Lakes, sail racing in the Great Lakes, do you think that with the advent of social media, there seems to be a larger reach out beyond the valley, out beyond the Great Lakes region? It seems to be growing. Is that a fair estimation?
Well, certainly awareness is growing. I don't know if the sport's growing. That's a constant debate. I mean, there's still people that don't race on Saturdays because they can't find enough crew. And I know I work very, very hard at staffing up a boat for every race I do. If I'm doing a Tuesday night race, that's kind of a, we bring experienced people, but we also bring lesser experienced people because that's a chance for them to get to do some stuff they wouldn't ordinarily do on a boat. And, it's kind of a training camp sort of thing, mentality, and we have fun, and we care less about the results and more about having a good time and getting, people who are, say, at the intermediate level to improve their skill set. But I can tell you, Bayview's adult learn to sail classes haven't sold out all 3 sessions. So there's definitely an interest in the sport. And, you made the comment earlier about aggressive cruising. And I think, there's not a lot of people who are serious and intense. I mean, I'd say maybe, 20% of the fleet that races are super intense and trying to sail at the highest level they possibly can. There's another maybe 20% of people that aspire to get there, and they're almost there. They might need a little more experience or a little more time on the boat, or some better sails, or they're just one little baby step away from being at that next level. And then you got the aggressive cruisers and then the people that are like the Mackinac crew. It's like, hey, this race has been around for years. We've had a lot of awareness of it because we all live on Mackinac Island. Let's do it. And they probably wouldn't have done it in the 99s. They probably won't do it the 101st or the 110th. But who knows? Maybe they have such a good time they'll be back. I hope that's the case.
I think part of opportunity comes from financial, what you have in your pocket. And so a lot of that opportunity comes, not everybody's as devoted as that top 20% because they don't have as much at stake. I get that part of it. And it's an expensive sport. Boats aren't cheap, and competitive boats are even more expensive. So that comes with, I think, with the territory. It just seems like as we talk to, especially when we talk to, and we've done that over the last few weeks, we've talked to Charlie Enright and Ken Reed. We've talked to some, serious international, national level type of sailors. And they're not coming here because it's a free opportunity to make some money. They're coming because of the competition. And if they're telling me something different, then that's fine. But I really believe that these fleets are growing stronger, especially at the top level. And I think it's good for the sport.
Well, it's great for the sport. And, first of all, you mentioned earlier we've had a couple of good years or past years of results, good results. I am not a rich man. Okay. I spend probably a disproportionate amount of what little resources I have to go to the boat, but that's my hobby. That's my passion. And, I sail with the crew of 10 normally on a distance race. Okay. The other 9 people don't have to buy a boat. Okay. So you don't have to be a rich guy to race sailboats. It helps to have a little money to buy a boat, own a boat, maintain it, care and feeding, and so on and so forth. But there's a lot more people of modest incomes who enjoy sailboat racing and who are good at it. And yes, it helps to have what do they call it? A bottomless checkbook. But not everybody does, and those who don't, some of us make do with what we have, and it works out okay.
Well, I will tell you this: watching Bart Harthwaite and the guys that were finished last, their smiles are no bigger, no smaller than yours having won, and they finished dead last, and I guarantee you, they would tell you they had as much fun as you did. And I think that's the beauty of the sport, because I think it gives the opportunity for so many levels and so many opportunities for so many different kinds of racing. And I think that's the beauty of the sport. So, Tim, thanks for all that you do for the sport, and congratulations on another great, successful summer.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And summer's not over. We're going to get, I got the boat all depigged and stripped out, and we're ready for day racing again. And it starts up next Tuesday.
And the North Channel race is coming up, right?
Absolutely. And I'm dumb enough to do it again, because that race is originally recommended for boats of a length no greater than 30 feet. And when the water was up a few years ago, I said, let's try it. We did it. And then, so now we've got, Hot Ticket, the J120 comes out. There's a couple other bigger boats that, come out. Like it's an Olsen 30 that did it one year. There's a couple Hobie 33s that'll probably do it. It's fun. And it's like a fall tour of Michigan on the water. And it's because you're fighting the current halfway up till you get to around the Russell Island, then you get to have the current, give you a push on the way to the finish. It's a super challenging race. You really got to watch the water depth, but it is so much incredibly fun and so unique and so different that, as long as the water's deep enough for me to get in the North Channel, we'll do it.
Well, cool. Well, listen, thank you again, and hope our paths will cross, I'm sure, and have a great rest of the summer.
All right, Greg, thanks. You too.
Just wanted to thank Tim and Cruz Duhan for coming aboard and talking about their races. It was really pretty spectacular. We said at the beginning of the show in a live shot we were going to spend some time kind of doing a travelogue. We had some issues. We were supposed to be on a 53 oyster for the race, and we're going to explain all that next week. We wanted to bring you at least the portions of this race that I thought made sense, and hopefully that is one of the interviews coming up. Actually, there's 2 interviews coming up. Bart Harthwaite was on last week. He was part of the Mackinac Island Yacht Club. We had conversation. It was really cool talking to him. They were the pickle boat, and we wanted to have a conversation with him about what it was like to finish 31 hours after the leaders had finished. He was just a good sport about it. It also points out the sport of sailing and just how terrific it is and what it means to, all the guys aren't Dennis Conner. And it was kind of fun talking to Bart, and that was really cool. And then to finish up the show, for the second time this season, we got a chance to talk to John Hune, who is the katana racer, and he was up at the Regatta. Again, we were supposed to get up there and do some filming at that, and we had some family issues, and we just couldn't get all the places we wanted to be. We'll bring you all that information next week as we kind of get settled. But John talked about their victory up there, and they're back in the hunt for the Great Lakes 52 Championships coming up. John has always been terrific with us. Then we're going to finish off with some 52 pictures and some of the stuff the island on the finish at Mackinac. And we're vowing for next year to come back and race in that. We'll see what happens if we can make our first race. It would have been nice to make the 100th, but family conditions and situations are what they are. So that being the case, up next is Bart Harthwaite talking about the love of the sport. And I think you'll enjoy both that interview with John, finishing with some pictures, a little bit of music, and just want to let you guys know what's going on. So we'll see you soon. We're talking with Bart Harthwaite. And Bart, we had a chance to talk to last week in a very unique situation. There was all kinds of guys from Mackinac Island, part of the Mackinac Island Yacht Club, of which you're a former Commodore. We're racing on your 34 Catalina, and you won the pickle award for the race in what was one of the slowest Macs ever. And I'm not doing this out of anything other. I think it's the other end of sailing, the enjoyable part, the camaraderie that goes with it. And not everything is going to be great. Not everybody's going to be first across the line. And you guys had a really fun time. So when you go up in front of everybody on the island and receive that award, just talk us through the race a little bit in the experience of being dead last.
Yeah, well, we had no expectations of doing exceptionally well in the race. We certainly didn't expect to be the pickle boat, but I tell you what, I had more fun on this Mac than any Mac that I've done. I'd liken it more to aggressive cruising than necessarily racing. We ate very well. Andrew Dowd supplied us with tremendous meals. He brought some great wine for the cruise. So one of the meals we had prime rib served with Camus, and we had music playing the entire time. I've never had music on a Mackinac before, so it was definitely a different experience. An inexperienced crew that had never sailed together before. So I think we have some work to do if we're ever going to do this again. But I tell you what, it was tremendous fun. We had a great time. Everybody got along fantastically well.
The applause for the Pickle Award at the party on Tuesday was almost as big as what the winner got. And I think part of it goes back to, again, there's a lot more people like us than there are like them, so to speak. And I don't want to sound like classes, but
right.
You're not spending, millions, seven figures on a boat to go race as some are. And I think that's kind of the joy and the beauty of what this race is. Now, nobody wants to have that happen, certainly at a time when racing conditions were certainly difficult, right? I mean, to say the least.
Yeah, we had zeros across the board for hours on end. So it came close. There was a conversation about dropping out on Monday at some point. I was actually down below off shift, sleeping, and one of the crew came down to wake me up for a serious discussion on whether or not we were going to finish or drop out. It was Mike Haggerty that really kind of rang the bell and the cry to keep going. And so we quickly rallied behind him and just continued to press on and kind of take it as it came. So it was what it was, but we were happy to finish, and so be it that it was last.
I haven't looked at the numbers, and I probably should have before we had a conversation, but how far between the second to last and you guys?
I haven't looked at any numbers.
Okay.
I mean, I got to the island and turned on the fun light and kind of forgot about the race and the statistics. Okay. Perhaps we'll try to do it again next year.
Yeah. And I won't ask the alcohol consumption on that tour, because that would have been, I'm sure beer distributors would have been happy as far as the race. But isn't this really the antithesis of what this race is? There's so many levels of opportunity within the race itself. I understand we're all probably watching, the big boats and how fast they go, especially after the Chicago Mac, and seeing all that went on with this. You're just stuck with the environment that you have. I mean, it's not like you can change it. Right.
Exactly.
Just from a physical standpoint, what was the top speed? What was the bottom speed? Obviously I know 0, but how fast were you actually going over the finish line? And what time did you guys finish on Monday?
We finished it was actually Tuesday morning.
Okay.
So it was Tuesday morning. And so we were just happy to make the party, frankly. We crossed the line. That was some of we started to pick up a little wind, but I think we were only going about 2 knots across the finish line. One of the special things, though, about the finish line is I actually had some of my dad's ashes. So we dropped some of my dad's ashes across the finish line. He was actually the Commodore of the Yacht Club. I'm currently the treasurer. Okay. But after he left his 1-year term as Commodore, he declared himself the Commodore of the island for life. So he was very supportive of all things sailing and big proponent of anything to do with the island. He would have just been elated with the all island crew.
What a cool tribute to your dad.
It was neat.
That's amazing.
It was
That's
cool.
amazing. Yeah.
And then we had Arnold Freight come out and do a couple flybys with the Corsair. We were getting honks from there in the 906. And then when we got to the island, we had a nice welcoming committee. I was pretty surprised. It was 7 a.m. I couldn't believe how many people on the island. I stayed up there last week, and how many people came up to me on a daily basis to say they were tracking us. It was unbelievable. They all said they were proud of us, and coming in last, that's a little hard to hear, but apparently they were just happy we finished.
The irony of the sort of 6 degrees of separation. We went up to the boat on Friday for Valkyrie, and 2 boats over was Ravel, Brian Ellison's Ravel. Well, you interview somebody for the show, and then all of a sudden you go all the way to Port Huron and you find out he's parked 2 boats over. And then another 5 or 10 minutes after we were on the boat, Brian came back over and he says, "Oh, we have a friend of yours coming over with us." And Sam Nadeau, who was on Usual Suspects, which is one of the 52s that lost its mast in the Chicago race, I had raced with him from Queens Cup down to St. South Haven. Mm-hmm. And Sam was somebody that if you watched that particular show, I had introduced myself for the first time. Sam was standing outside the brew house in Milwaukee. So from brew house to all of a sudden, Sam ends up on Brian's boat, who I'd interviewed. There was no connection, yet I'm sitting 2 boats off from them. I mean, the 6 degrees of separation of this race is the sport. It still amazes me.
Absolutely. The camaraderie is fantastic. We got a little ribbing from some of our competitors over, during the party and what have you, but we just, reminded them that we actually got a flag and they didn't. So, albeit with fringe and green, we got a flag. It is now proudly hung at the Cannonball Oasis, home of the fried pickle. So that seems somewhat apropos. And we're having a big pickle party this Saturday at the Cannonball Oasis, 3 to 6. So if you're on the island, come by the Cannonball Oasis.
Okay. Do me a favor. When you guys have some celebratory toast at this deal, somebody take your camera out or your phone out and just give me 15 seconds and we'll run it on the next show, because I think it would be apropos to being able to see the celebration and the smiles and all that this race brings. Not everything when we cover stuff, not everything can be about the first place guy. It's got to be about the fun and the enjoyment of what this race is. So, Bart, this is such a cool thing, and I appreciate your time.
My pleasure, Greg.
And we'll certainly, hopefully, our paths will cross this summer.
That sounds great. You have a great day. Thanks for your time, and I'll talk soon.
Thank you. We're back talking with John Hune, who is the owner of Katana. We're talking you're from St. Louis again. You had a great weekend at Regatta Regatta up in Harbor Springs, Little Traverse Bay. You dominated the weekend on buoy racing. So congratulations. And maybe just talk a little bit about the race, because it was pretty tough in terms of wind, because there's not much of it on Sunday.
Yeah, I think we used all our wind allotment on the MAC race. So we had a great breeze for the MAC race this year. But and we had a good practice day, so a nice breeze on practice day, and then the event was sailed in light air, certainly on Friday in the buoy races for us, and then Saturday for the tour of the bay, as they call it, and then Sunday was we got skunked because no breeze to race. So light air event, generally these boats go pretty well in light air too, so they're all powered up, and it was a good event, a lot of fun there, and of course, just a phenomenal place in Harbor Springs.
Personally, talk about the difference between buoy racing and sort of open water. What's your first preference?
Yeah, I'm a buoy racing guy. Grew up one design around the buoys, so always have liked that. The point-to-point races are fun and exciting. You can get different people involved, and that's nice. It was nice to have the MAC race a little bit shorter this year. I never argue if we can finish in a day instead of 2 days. So the point-to-points bring a little bit of excitement in sometimes, like the Queen's Cup and the storms associated with that. But I'm really a buoy racing guy for sure.
Talk briefly about, from a crew perspective, what's needed for open water versus for us novices. When you're running as a skipper, you have to look at your crew, and obviously there's different skills for buoy racing as there might be for open water.
Yeah, when you're out there in the coastal races for a day or two, you need to have a lot of trimmers and a lot of drivers, right? So a little bit different. You're going to have fewer mark roundings, fewer maneuvers. Still need a great bowman to do all those peels and sail changes, but a little bit different crew makeup, including grinders. Right down to being able to grind for 24 hours is tough compared to a buoy race where you're doing 45 minutes to an hour at a time.
You've had a great sort of season at this point. You've got a race coming up, Little Traverse Bay race, coming up in a week and a half, and then obviously the final at Macatawa. Have you been a little surprised at your success? Not that I don't want to sound arrogant about it, but yeah, you guys had a phenomenal season.
Yeah, so far so good, and we are thrilled, of course, but it was certainly not expected. My attitude's always been, if you can get a good boat, and we checked that box. My first click was Morgan Larson, and he brought a great team together. So we're really thrilled with the team, and we've gelled really well. Folks really know what they're doing. And Pete has done a phenomenal job, putting this boat together and keeping it together. So we've had little to no breakdowns or issues. So it's really clicking together. But, you have to remember, while we're having a great season, a lot of things we have are new, and that certainly helps us. But we've had 4 different winners of 5 events so far this year. And so the class is incredibly competitive.
And it continues to grow. I mean, you're talking more boats next year.
Couple new boats already this year. I think we might have another one here at the end of the year, and then a couple more coming next year. It's really exciting to think that you could have a dozen or more TP52s or GL52s racing together in the Great Lakes is unheard of.
Obviously, the cost of those boats has come down over the last 5 or 6 years. That certainly helps the entry into the sport.
That's right.
But last year, when you have Usual Suspects having sort of out of nowhere a Corinthian win,
yeah,
and now all of a sudden you don't have to be, spending all that money on crew. You can find, certainly talented folks within a number of places. Obviously, you're pulling from, all over the place. It really is. It's just an amazing fleet because of the potential who can win.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we've seen some boats that are brand new and more Corinthian, do some amazing things. There's a new boat, Hooligan, who has shown up and done some really great stuff. I think placed 4th out of the 8. So yeah, it's, you can come at this any way you want. And I think we're all pretty committed to helping any of the new folks, whether that be sales and helping share some of the sale costs, because those aren't cheap for these big boats. Just to some tuning in and tips that we'll all share to try to get boats into the fleet and up the curve, because there's a decent learning curve for sure.
The show has been very friendly with Trey Sheehan, and the joke about that boat, not the joke, but at least the point about that boat, you've got a Rolex Sailor of the Year in Curtis Florence. You've got guys named Boston who own a sail company. So again, sort of that underrated crew that you don't necessarily think about. And there's a lot of talent in the Great Lakes. There just is. And you're attracting national talent, international talent.
That's right. And that Hooligan program has multiple boats, as you might be aware. And so they've shown to be fast on whatever kind of boat they're on. So they're going to be real competition for sure.
Good. Well, John, I appreciate your time. I know it's early Monday morning. It's actually early Tuesday morning.
Good morning.
So thanks for your time. And hopefully we'll see you in Harbor Springs in a week or so. And have a great week.
Yeah, great to see you again, and thanks for all you do for Great Lakes sailing, Greg. Thanks.